off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast as well. We are live there, as well as YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we currently are sitting at 100. And Peter Taglianetti of subscribers. He wore the jersey number 32 back in 1992, 1993 when he played with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He had a goal and 8 assists for 9 points. Split his time with Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, 5 years, Winnipeg for 6 years, and Minnesota for a year as well. You could also subscribe to the audio after, as we are here recapping after game one of the Stanley Cup Final in wonderful, wonderful winter weather, as the temperature here in Burnaby as we speak is 27 degrees at 9:10 in the morning. Hello, Sean. What looks, you're in your new place, first of all.
Yeah, new place. It was a tough slog through a few days there to get everything moved over in the heat, moving a little slower than we probably would have liked, but we're moved in and we're slowly getting through all the boxes now.
Nice. Well, welcome to your new place. Enjoy it. Devin, hello to you as well.
Hey, Kev.
And you're doing all right?
Yeah, trying to stay as cool as possible. It's not so much me that I worry about. It's Gord, my dog, that I worry about, and just trying to keep her cool because she's hasn't lived in a place without AC before in the heat, so it's been a bit of a transition there. But yeah, sleeping is hard right now, that's for sure.
I have 4 bottles of water, 1 Gatorade, and 1 cup of coffee.
Hot coffee.
Hot coffee, exactly. Hot coffee, yes. We'll also, so we got a lot to get into. There's been some news and even some breaking news. I'm going to tease this. We're going to break some news on this podcast. Sort of, kind of. Anyway. But we'll start with the game. The Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning. Excitement everywhere as it's the first appearance for the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Final in 25 years. The drive for 25. The drive for 25. It's been over 25 years, 28 years since the Montreal Canadiens have been in the Stanley Cup themselves. The Tampa Bay Lightning are looking to repeat, so the collision is there. But in terms of the matchup, it was certainly one-sided. It certainly, from pretty much pillar to post, it was all Tampa Bay. Montreal could only muster 18 shots on goal. Tampa Bay ended the Montreal's long penalty-killing streak, and Carey Price allowed 5 goals in the playoffs for the first times in 6 years when he did it when the Tampa Bay Lightning did it to him again. So, I guess let's start. Maybe we'll start with Tampa Bay. We'll start with Sean. Was this a surprising result for you? Did it change anything? Were you impressed? What impressed you about Tampa?
It didn't surprise me at all. Tampa is a very well-coached team. They've got the star power. They've got the structure. They've got the grinders. And they know how to play defense. Like, everyone talks about Tampa's high-flying offense with Kucherov and Point and Stamkos. But look at that left side of that blue line. You've got Hedman, McDonough, and Sergachev. Like you can put out a pair of you can put out a defense pair with one of those guys every minute of the game, and that's gonna be tough to beat. And as good as Montreal as good as Montreal has been, Tampa just has the horses, the big physical defensemen that have the potential to shut down the forwards that Montreal has, and they did that last night. So I think it's not surprising. I wasn't on for the preview, but I did watch our hockey. What do you call it, Kev? The clip, hockey pod clip.
Yes.
Of your predictions, and everyone was calling it for a long series. I was pretty confident that it was going to be Tampa in 6 or less, and nothing that I saw there last night really changed my mind in terms of that. I think when you can have a fresh legs on Kucherov, you've got Braden Point who drives the bus, you've got Norris Trophy Norris Trophy caliber defenseman in Hedman, not to mention, like I said, McDonough and Sergachev, and then you throw in the right side to have very serviceable defensemen, and then you throw in your Vezina caliber goalie in Vasilevsky. It's going to be very, very, very tough for the Montreal to pull off another upset here. And what the Lightning showed last night just further proved that to me.
Yeah, the Lightning, they came to play, and they had the crowd behind them the entire way, which is massive, and they didn't look back pretty much. It was, like Kevin said, from pillar to post, Lightning through and through. You did have little spurts here and there from Montreal, but it didn't surprise me that Montreal struggled last night. I think that they needed to feel out the series a little bit. The biggest thing for the road team is to get a split in the first 2 games. And I think that they will be better. Montreal will be better next game. Who knows if they'll be able to create more offense within the structure that Tampa Bay plays. That is something that they need to do. They need to have more speed in the neutral zone. Granted, they at the very beginning, Cole Caulfield had a good couple chances, and they're going high on Vasilevsky, which is something that they need to do. But within that, I think creating that speed in the neutral zone for Montreal that's something that they need to create within the defensive zone structure, neutral zone, and get into the offensive zone with speed. But it is very hard within doing that with not having the matchups, being the road team. So Tampa Bay being the home team, making sure that they have the matchups that they want, making sure that Kucherov, Point, and Palat are not playing against the no line is huge. And if they're going to be successful in game 2, Montreal that I'm talking about, they need better defensive structure within trying to shut that top line down. And I mean, let alone their second line is Cirelli, Killorn, and Stamkos. So either way, you kind of have a double-edged sword there for Tampa Bay's offense. But it doesn't surprise me. But I think along with the tweaks within the game of trying to figure out how to create that offense for Montreal, Tampa Bay is going to have to make a couple little tweaks here and there to counteract what Dominic Ducharme is going to be wanting out of Montreal.
I just, to me, it's what impressed me with Tampa it wasn't the stars that got them on going. It's Eric Chernak jumps into the play, like he's Dougie Hamilton, and scores his first ever playoff goal. And then you have Yanni Gourde scoring. I mean, and Yanni Gourde is a good player. Please don't get me wrong, but Yanni Gourde is not a star on the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a lot of unsung hero work. Cirelli, I thought Cirelli and Killorn were strong. Agree with Sean. The defense where Tampa Bay was great, and it's starting. I don't know. One of the other trends with Tampa Bay that I don't think is getting talked about enough is their third periods. When they are up, it's pretty much a death trap. Like the Islanders went 8 minutes without a shot on goal in the last series. In the third period, they are developing a master's class in how to protect a lead in the third period. And then even yesterday, as the game wore on, Tampa Bay, like Nikita Kucherov started to get it going. Braden Point started to get it going. Those cross bumper passes to one-timers for Kucherov and Stamkos, they had all day to do them. It's just they wear you down after two periods, and then they take away your will in the third. And if they have the lead after two periods, it's going to be tough for Montreal.
Yeah, and like you said, everyone talks about their high-flying offensive players, but they're so well coached and so well structured defensively that it's when they get up there, it's so tough to get anything solid with the get through and get shots. If you look at the stats from last night, a 5-on-5, Montreal actually shot attempted the Lightning, and it was 44-37. But they only got 17 shots on net 5-on-5. So Tampa was doing a good job getting in shooting lanes and forcing them to shoot wide and finding a way to make it an easier night for Andrei Vasilevsky.
Yeah, the blocked shots last night, Canadians had 5 and the Lightning had 15. And so that says a lot right there within Tampa Bay's defensive structure and just getting in front of pucks. And that's something that Montreal really needs to start doing if they're gonna be successful. Especially, and the other thing is they got to stay out of the box. They have to. Like Kev, like you said, though, that cross ice pass between Kucherov and Stamkos, like they make it look so easy. It's insane.
If it was like, to me, I mean, I think that we'll get to the Canadiens here for a second, but I mean, one difference that if you're a Canadiens fan, you have to notice is the power play between what Vegas had, no disrespect, and the power play that Tampa Bay is able to bring out, and just how it is designed. My goodness, that is, I would imagine, quite an adjustment, and I'm sure in film preparation and preparation for the series, you game plan for it, but I can't help but wonder. But when you see that on the ice, that it just feels so different. If that makes sense.
Well, there's no one you can really focus on as like the trigger man, because if you focus too much on Kucherov, well, you've got Braden Point, Steven Stamkos up front, let alone Hedman as well, I don't know who else is on that unit, but those four alone, it's hard enough to try. You can't really game plan because they are smart enough to be able to exploit anytime you try and overcommit to one of them.
Yeah, you have Killorn in front of the net. You have Stamkos and Kucherov on the flanks, and then you have Braden Point in the slot. It's deadly. Yep.
Your PP1 is Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, and then you've got Palat. You've got some Palat, got some ice time, Cirelli, Gourde, and Maroonisti, Patrick Maroon, also got some ice time as well. But
he's chubby but effective.
Yeah. I'm going to use that as my tagline. Chubby but effective. I also, but for the Canadiens, I think, there's been so much love going into this with Cole Caulfield. Everyone has been really excited about him. Everyone was really excited about Nick Suzuki as well. They had a tough night. And this was a part of that learning curve that I think everyone is expecting. That the line of Suzuki, Toffoli, and Caulfield, all three were -3. They had no points. That was a tough night for them.
Yeah, it's a big step. It's a big step up in, like, the conference finals are one thing, but the Stanley Cup Finals is completely different. I think it's a big step up in microscope and everything for the Habs, and especially for those young players, the Suzukis, the Caulfields, the Kokieniemis. Why do you think we were seeing Ducharme play a lot of the vets? Kokiniemi didn't play for the first few games. We haven't seen Romanov. I still think they need to play Romanov, but that's why the idea of veteran and been there, done that is so important, because you don't get maybe too just overwhelmed by the situation. I think there might have been a little bit of that, but I think we will see better games from them going forwards. They're smart enough and skilled enough players that once they get their feet under them, I think we see them play better.
I think they'll be able to play better. I just don't know if they'll be able to. The veteran presence on Tampa Bay is so vast, and they just know, like what Kev said earlier, they know how to shut it down in the third period. So getting that momentum is hard, and that first goal is massive. Once Chernak scored, right then and there, I'm like, oh, this is a heavy hill to be climbing if you're the Montreal Canadiens. So in order for them to be successful, Sean, you said it at the beginning of the playoffs, Nick Suzuki needs to be one of their better players, and he wasn't last night.
I just want to bring this comment up from Michael. Yeah, Kucherov is inconsistent, and it's also why I've always said that it's Braden Point that drives the bus for that offense. And Kucherov can be amazing, and he can be not there. I remember watching the Lightning play Calgary here in Calgary a couple of years ago, and Kucherov was absolutely nowhere to be found. But know who was there? It was Yanni Gourde, and it was Braden Point. And as much as Gourde is more of a third line player, he's just perfectly suited for that. And he's a water bug. He's an energy player. You need those players to win. And yeah, I think it's they just have good pieces in the right spot, even if they are. Yeah, it's just just good pieces in the right spot, and we're looking. And it's going to be very tough for the Habs to find a way here. And hey, I've predicted against them every series in these playoffs, and I've been wrong every time. So maybe I'll be wrong again. But I think it's just going to be very tough, and that last night just didn't quell any of the concerns I had.
Well, with Kucherov, I mean, the one thing with him is, yes, he is inconsistent, but he does turn it on for the playoffs. He's one of 3 players with 30-plus points in 3 consecutive years in the playoffs. The other 2 are named Gretzky and Lemieux. So Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, Wayne. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
And then Mario Lemieux.
Just to yeah. It's 2 seasons, 30 points in 2 consecutive playoff seasons.
Oh, right, sorry, 2.
Yeah.
But still, in those type of names, he does turn it on for the. And to be fair, he didn't play the regular season this year. We are going to debate that in the offs when or if Tampa Bay wins the Cup. Because I think that I'm going to tease that. There's 2 ways to look at what's happened in Tampa Bay.
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it too. But I just want to go back to Montreal. If in order for Montreal to be successful, every single game that they've done well in and that they've won, they came out hard within that first 10 minutes, and you did not see that last night. They were sluggish. They weren't able to get any momentum going, and Tampa Bay knows that. They know that that's how they have to play, and if Tampa Bay just sticks to what they're doing, it's going to be very, very hard for Montreal to get anything going.
Yeah, I mean, their best chance really all night was the Shea Weber breakaway. Cole Caulfield had a couple of good shots too, especially at the beginning. I mean, it was high slot, almost at the blue line, but I think that if he wanted to have that shot back, you want to get that on net. You have to. And crash that net, get pucks on net, crash it, have an offensive zone draw. Last night they were tied. They were 50-50 on draws. Yeah. I guess the other thing, I mean, one guy that was for Montreal trying to get things going was Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah.
He was getting in there. And like overall, I think the Montreal forwards, they need to get into Vasilevsky's kitchen a little bit more than last night. Thought they had an easy night. I think they need to make sure that Shea Weber shot gets through as well. They made that shot to get through a couple times, but the play that everybody is kind of talking about was the whole. It was Sergachev versus Gallagher and Blake Coleman. It ended up Coleman. It was the one that went to the box, but the focus was Brendan Gallagher's head that landed on the ice. Sergachev took him down. Gallagher was helmetless. Blood's all over. I saw tweets saying Sergachev should be suspended for it. I don't like when the head hits the ice, but it's I don't think that that's a suspendable play. Like it's just one of those things. It's a tackle. It's a scrum. Sergachev, it's not like, I don't think Sergachev meant to drive his head to the ice. It just was a natural consequence of what happened. So I don't think anything should happen to Sergachev there.
I don't think anything will happen. They've already announced that Weber got a $5,000 fine for his slash on Kucherov, and they haven't announced anything for anything else. So I don't think there's anything coming there. And it's just such a fine line when you get into those scrums. That's what happens there. And man, what is with the Habs and having these like bloodied up players these playoffs, where whether or not you've got like ruptured blood vessels or whatever the Jeff Petrie had, and then you had Franken Perry, as well as now Gallagher with his looking like he's wrestling for the WCW back in the 1990s, and he bladed in a steel cage match.
Yeah,
he's been bloodied twice this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Sergachev being fined. I personally, man, I'm having a hard time with Kucherov because I didn't think that, it's a slash to the back of the legs, but that happens all the time. I felt like I don't know. I just feel like it was a bit of a dive, and that he sold it, because if it really hurt that bad, he would not been able to get up, guaranteed, right? And even the Ben Sherratt penalty, Sherratt, he did, to Tyler's credit, and he said it before, don't put yourself in a position to get a call against you. But like the amount of bullshit that Kucherov is pulling in these playoffs, it's pissing me off. Like, let's play hockey here, and that is a part of playoff hockey. The slash to the back of the legs, all that bullshit, honestly. And it drives me nuts that he gets for the Sherratt hit, he gets hit in the head, which he doesn't, and he flails, and then he's back on the power play. Like, and then with the slash, like I said, he got up right away. if it was that bad, he would have been on the ice for a lot longer, struggling to get back to the bench.
Yeah. I that's one of the things that I wish I wish that they clamped down more is the embellishment. I think that's another thing that they have to, like in football, in the CFL anyway, which is back on August the 5th, if you are injured, you have to take at least 3 plays off. I think that the NHL has to not look at 3 plays off, but you at least need to be off a certain amount of time if you're injured.
Yeah, I agree. It is hard to like it's so much easier when you slow down the play, you take a look at it, and then it looks a lot worse or not as worse, depending when it's slowed down within slow motion, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you, Kev. There has to be some sort of middle ground within that, because I feel like Kucherov, since he is a star in this league, gets a little bit of leeway within that. And I'm not very much a proponent of protect the stars, but let's have an even playing field within that as well.
Oh, my phone is ringing. Hello. Hang on 1 second. Hello? Yes, Gary. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Thanks. That was Gary Bettman. He says that you didn't see the play from the ref's eyes. You have no place to make a call on that.
My opinion doesn't matter then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Gary said that comment in his State of the Union with such arrogance and smugness that it's so hard to take it seriously. But I think there is some truth to that. Like, there are some calls that, like, it's so easy to see it when we see the replay and you see it from the camera point of view, the TV viewer point of view. But when you see it from like positioning of refs and all that, it's so much more difficult. But there are some. It's so tough. Like, we see it all the time, and we got Euros going on right now. How many times have we seen players like get tapped on the ankle and dive like they've been shot by a sniper? It's just the way it is, and until you're able to crack down on it, the players are going to continue to try and push the envelope. Like, I'm a Canucks fan, and we all remember the Ryan Kessler tumbleweed play and all the gifts that came out of that. Like, it until you can start like legitimately cracking down on that. But the other thing is, if you're going to crack down on the embellishment, you have to make sure that you're calling the hooks, the holds, the slashes, the high sticks that they are embellishing, because 90% of the time when they're embellishing something, it's because it's actually, by the rule, it's a penalty.
Yeah. There's gamemanship, which is like, okay, as an example, you go back to the Vegas Montreal series. There was a hook. Matt Pacioretty held on to the guy's stick. And that I don't like it, but that's gamemanship. It's when you act like you're injured and you're about to die, and then you get back on the ice, that just feels a bit icky to me. That's where I'm like, we need to get rid of that. Mm-hmm. We'll get to Gary Bettman in a second. I was going to I had an impression of him, but I didn't think it would come off very good, so I went with the phone. Anything else on this? I mean, the only other thing, speaking of injuries, what Alex Killorn and that block shot with the ankle there on the Petrie shot, and then he comes back. You got to admire that, but
he came back and didn't look like he was limping at all, or that he was laboring. But God, I can't imagine that was right off the ankle bone.
Yeah, yeah, that looked like it hurt.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, as much I think one of the things that is going to be interesting to watch is, as much as everybody is hating on Tampa Bay, and I get why people hate Tampa Bay, I think there's going to be some things that the fans are going to have to start admiring about Tampa Bay, and they are warriors. They are battlers. This is not just your high flying team. This is a team that can battle with you in any which way, shape, or form. And they're a model. I think they're a model franchise that a lot of teams want to pattern themselves around. I just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, they you look at their cap situation, and they got away with a lot because we're looking at like a third line player in Yanni Gourde, or borderline second line player Yanni Gourde, making $5 million, and they've got I wouldn't call it model, but they found a way to make it work. They found a way to stretch the rules enough that people are annoyed, people are pissed off, because they were able to trade for injured players so that they could. They found enough loopholes to make this roster fit for this year. This upcoming offseason is going to be something to watch as well, because not only do they have to find a way to lose salary going into next season, but you look at the decisions they have to make with the expansion draft as well.
Yep. I mean, just to his original comment, Kev's original comment about them being warriors, they knew the type of player that they'd be getting in Barclay Goodrow, trading a first-round pick. Everybody raised their eyebrows within that, but that is the type of player that you win with. And you talk about warriors, he's one of them. And Alex Killorn, he's a warrior and a great veteran presence within that lineup that is gritty. He's a big player. He can throw his body around, and not to mention he does have some skill with him. That's why he's on that first power play in front of the net, making sure the goalie can't see. So it credit to I want to. It's not Steve Eisman, I know, but who's
Julien Brisebois.
Yeah, Brisebois is the guy who brought in Barclay Goodrow, and a good on him for making that trade, even though it was a high price. But during the offseason, they are one of the teams that you will be questioning what's going to happen. And we thought that this was going to be last year, that they were going to be trying to figure out what's going to happen within that lineup because of they're millions of dollars over the cap. But they obviously, Kucherov was hurt for the entire year. And those of you who are not watching us live, I'm doing quotations within that because I don't think that Kucherov was hurt for the entire year. And I think all of us are kind of conspiracy theorying within that. But it just why would you bring him back if they would have to make some drastic changes in that lineup so that they can go on a run like they have been, and now they are contending for the cup.
But still impressive without a guy, considered a top player in the NHL. They still got to where they were without him.
Yep.
And they were able, I mean, it's fascinating.
It's an easier pill to swallow when you have that blue line and the depth, like we were talking about, those top two lines. Anthony Cirelli, he's talked about an underrated player within that lineup and within the league. He's kind of had a coming out party within the last 2 years, and he was a big part of their win last year. But they within that depth of that lineup, losing a Kucherov, it's a lot easier for them to move forward and have success with what they have there.
Yeah.
Fair. Anything else on this game?
I not on this game, but I do want to ask you guys. Philip Deneau, do you know what that trade was? Do you remember that trade at all? Philip Deneau?
What, with Chicago?
Yeah. Do you remember who was in that trade?
No.
It was Thomas Fleischmann and Dale Weiss for Philip Deneau and a second-round draft pick. That second-round draft pick, Romanov.
Wow.
Chicago. And Fleischmann, after that year, Fleischmann and Dale Weiss did not play for the Chicago Blackhawks. And that's when they got swept in the first round. So talk about a massive trade that, if you're Chicago Brass, you're kind of maybe kicking yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And Deneau is going to get paid in the offseason.
Yep, he definitely will. Is he an RFA or is he UFA?
He's UFA.
UFA? And I was listening to the morning show here in Calgary, Fan 960, and they were debating, okay, which player would you rather have? Is Zach Hyman or a Philip Deneau? And I know Deneau is a center, and obviously you're looking for those shutdown centers. But as far as cap hit goes and where they are at and within their careers, yeah, I'd go Deneau over Hyman.
Ooh, I'm going Hyman because I think he, as good as Deneau is, I think it depends on the situation. Let's put it that way. I think it's close, and it depends on the situation and what you're looking for. If you're someone like Vancouver or Edmonton, where you're looking for a third line center or someone who can take away some of the defensive responsibilities from your top two lines, I think Deneau fits better. But if you're a team like Calgary or some team like that where you've got the options down the middle, Zach Hyman he's a great glue. Talk about players like Coleman and Goodrow and Gord. That's the type of player that Zach Hyman is, and I think he's probably going to get overpaid in this UFA season, but he's going to, for 2 to 3 years, he's still going to be very, very good for whoever gets him.
I'm not saying don't get Hyman. I'm not saying but I think just even if a Calgary or signs a Deneau, you can probably move a Monahan or a Backlund for that right shot that you need, right? So, or you can move Lindholm over. It allows some versatility. But I do like Zach Hyman. I wouldn't hurt to have a Zach Hyman on your team.
No. I just think the cap hit for Hyman is going to be too much to bear. He'll be good for the next 2, maybe 3 years. Just the way that he does play is very hard, and those are the people that you do win with. But I think if you're looking at the full contract, Deneau is going to be not as high of a cap hit, and I think he'll be more effective going into his later years, just because of the way that he does play.
I disagree. I think their cap hits are going to be very similar. We're talking about a winger who, as good as Hyman is, and he's had some good seasons. We're still talking about a premium shutdown center in Philip Deneau, and who can still put up points. Maybe not at the same rate as like a Hyman, but I think the shutdown center is just as valuable. I could see both of them getting a lot of money this offseason, depending on how many teams are looking. And yeah, I think it's going to be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Deneau gets more.
I think Deneau will get more too.
Wow, I'm on the opposite end. I think Hyman is going to get more. How many players are in the league that can do Hyman what Hyman does, playing on your top wing, being able to be a puck retriever, and his work ethic is bar none. And
it's not many, but not many players can do what Philip Deneau is doing either.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but how many shutdown centers are there in comparison to how many Hyman players there are?
I would say there's more Hymans than Deneaus.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I've been thinking about this because this is what the Canucks desperately need for going into next season, is a center who can take away defensive responsibilities from Petey and Horvat and the Petey and Horvat lines. And I look at that and I'm like, who is out there that is like a true shutdown center? And Deneau's out there, and I'm really struggling to figure out more like other players who are available too. It's not necessarily who's out there that can do it, but who's available.
That's fair, but once again, points are It's the same debate that you and I had with Chernak in the offseason. How much money he's going to get. He's a shutdown defenseman. Shutdown defensemen and shutdown forwards don't get paid as much as forwards like a Zach Hyman, in my mind, because Hyman, he can put up points, and he is able to. I know what you're doing now. You're comparing the points between the two of them. I can see that, but I just think that he is more formidable for a point getter as Zach Hyman is in comparison to Danault. Yeah, and I'm actually kind of curious now that I've said that what the comparisons are.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and Zach Hyman has 2 20-goal seasons under his belt. He would have had this year under normal circumstances would have been a 20-goal season as well. He had 15 and 43. While Danault hasn't, but he's a playmaker. He's had 3 seasons with 40 points or better. In 17-18, he had 25 and 52. He had 24 and 53 this year. He's no slouch offensively. He's just offensively, he's a different player. But like I said, I think it's going to be very close in terms of that. And then you also have both Coleman and Goodrow are both UFAs this offseason as well. And talk about players who play that same role.
Yeah, the only difference though is Hyman. He's played at the top line. He's been a top line player, and Danault's no slouch, no. But look who he's playing with, right? On another team, if he is just a shutdown role, then he's not in your top. He's a middle 6 center, line 1 or 2, or 2 or 3. But I think that's a product of who he is playing with.
So, okay, let me just, what I'm hearing you say, I just want to ask you something, Devin. Who would you rather have? Money not being an object, Danault or Backlund?
It'd be Danault right now, just because he is younger. I believe Backlund's 33, 32. Danault is 28, I believe. And I'd rather have Danault. I really would.
So, sorry, that's why I'm confused by your argument. That's like you're saying that it's the players he's with.
The players that so my argument is that money has to be a product of this conversation too.
Fair, okay.
And the amount of money that you'll be the amount of money that Hyman is going to get, I think, is going to be more than Danault. If we're talking about shutdown centers, it is a product of who you are around. That is what I'm saying, is that Danault is playing with high-end players right now. I'm not saying Backlund isn't. I'm saying that the reason why he's getting the points is because of the players that are around him. He's not a goal scorer; he's a playmaker. But I think that overall, you want, with cap hit and age and the style that you are playing, I think Hyman is going to get more, but I think Danault is the better cap hit within, and it's very similar to, okay, well, who would you rather have, Eichel or Reinhart? But the amount that you're going to be giving up for Eichel is going to be a shit ton, but you're going to get a really good player in Reinhart.
Well played, using my own argument against me.
You're welcome.
Danault's playing with Gallagher and Lehkonen right now. He played with Anderson and other. He's played all around the lineup, and he can go up and down. And I said, I think it's a lot closer than I think I understand your argument, Dev, with the points and everything, but I just look at who's available, and there's more players who are like Zach Hyman available this offseason than there are who are like Danault.
And sometimes I'm not saying Zach Hyman's overrated when I say this, but sometimes I think that we would put more stock when he's a Leaf. It's, oh, look how good Zach Hyman is, or that's former Leaf is. And then they go to a different team and they're not as effective. So that
do you have a comparison for that one?
Jake Gardiner.
Oh, Gardner. Oh man, I agree with you on that one. That Jake Gardner, he's a puck moving defenseman, not good in his defensive zone, and the decisions that he has made or did make as a Leaf, even then, I don't see him in the same ilk as a Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman is, I think, better than Gaudreau. And who's the other one, Sean? That's up.
Oh, Blake Coleman.
Blake Coleman, yeah. I like to me. I'd say Zach Hyman is very similar to Blake Coleman.
I'm not saying that Hyman's terrible, but I just think that sometimes historically, I'll throw a historical comparison in this. Matt Sundin was looked on and loved upon as a Leaf, and he's a Hall of Famer, but I don't know if Matt Sundin is a Hall of Famer if he's not playing in Toronto.
I think that has to do with more politics than anything else. But I see your point. I just don't know if I agree 100% because Zach Hyman, I don't think he'll be back as a Leaf. I think that he will sign somewhere else because they will be able to give the money that he is deserved. But I watch him on another team, and I guess for that's we don't know what that looks like yet. But I think that whoever gets him is going to get a very, very good player for the next 3 years.
Fair enough. A comment below, by the way, who you'd rather have, Danault or Hyman. Let's toss in some other news. Let's get into Gary Bettman and Bill Daly's media availability yesterday. Gary Bettman, who is the master of playing the villain heel, one of the best at it of all of them. He enjoys the booze, misses the booze. I mean, can we just, I can't wait to boo him again. Anyway, the things that came out were the Stadium Series will continue. It'll be Tampa Bay and Nashville that will play in Nissan Stadium in the end of February. I didn't hear anything on the Winter Classic, though. Was that announced?
I think that's the Minnesota game, isn't it?
That's right. You're right. Isha, it's the and the Soda Pod, friends of the podcast. You're finally getting your Winter Classic. Congratulations. They've been longing for that for a while. The Heritage Classic is coming back. I suspect, and I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be Edmonton, Toronto, either in Edmonton or Toronto. That's my hunch. With an outside shot of it being Vancouver. But it won't be Winnipeg. I don't think it's Winnipeg, Calgary, Montreal, or Ottawa, because they've been in Heritage Classic games, and Edmonton hasn't hosted one in a while. And I don't think Toronto has hosted a Heritage
Toronto
Classic.
has. The Centennial game, I think, is considered a Heritage Classic, too. It's an outdoor game. I think you're splitting hairs there if you're saying that they haven't hosted a Heritage Classic.
Well, I mean, okay, what I'm saying is it's okay. So I guess the longest term without a home game, to be fair, is Edmonton. So I would think that the high chance probability is if it's not if they don't do an exotic location, it's quite likely going to be in Edmonton, and I'm suspecting Toronto would be the opponent. That's sort of my prediction, but I could be wrong.
I don't think it's Toronto because what are you selling there? It's just Toronto versus Edmonton?
Matthews versus McDavid.
Maybe, but it's if you want to actually sell good rivalries and stuff, it's not going to be Calgary, I don't think, but you can do Vancouver, you can do Montreal. I think Kevin could be right, but I honestly think it's going to be in Edmonton at Commonwealth. I think I'm 90% sold on that, unless they're able to work out the logistics of doing a destination one like they did in Tahoe, but with fans, and you've got Whistler there. So I think those are to me, those are the two front runners. A little behind the scenes thing, we talked about maybe Montreal because they haven't hosted a outdoor game, but they've also got the draft going there next year, and there is no slam dunk facility there in Montreal. The Big O has issues. The soccer stadium is small. The CFL stadium is small. So I think I think it comes down to Commonwealth or Whistler, and then I think it could. Maybe I am overthinking it, and it will be Edmonton, Toronto, but I don't see Toronto being in there because they've been in the most, and I think they're going to try and get another team in there.
To me, it doesn't. If you're going rivalry, it would have to be either Calgary or Vancouver up in Edmonton, and anything outside of that. You could do Winnipeg. I don't see Montreal being in the mix. I don't see Ottawa being in the mix. But I mean, realistically, I think that Toronto probably has the best shot within doing that outside of Calgary. To me, it's Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver, the front runners there.
I think the one thing with Toronto that it would be an advantage is you do the Western Tour, you do Vancouver, Calgary, and if you set it like in November, if you do it kind of when they did the Winnipeg Calgary game a couple years ago, it's cold, it's cool, not cold.
Yeah.
So it's doable there. So that's where I could that's what I could see. I mean, we'll see. That's sort of my hunch as well. The other problem with Montreal is the soccer stadium is in. It's not it's a really nice area, but there's nothing around the area. Like if you're going to go to the pub or anything after, there's not a walking space to it. Olympic Stadium, it's huge, but holes. McGill is too small, but it has a wonderful location to it. It's like in a great area, and it would be majestic to look at scene wise too, but it's too small. That's the problem with Montreal, but we'll see.
I think the ideal one I think would get the most viewers and have the most hype would be Vancouver, Seattle in Whistler.
I've already called for Vancouver, Seattle at CenturyLink. That should be the opening game.
That'd be fun.
It would be. I think they're going to wait a year. I think that's what's going to happen. There will be a Vancouver Seattle game at CenturyLink within the next 2-3 years for sure. But we saw how picturesque and awesome it was with Tahoe, other than it being too warm. But you go up to Whistler, you do it in March. I don't think you're going to have the temperature issues. And if you can find a way to get a decent enough fans up there and get the logistics there, I think that's probably the number one choice. And I think that's what they're working on. Otherwise, they would have announced it being in Edmonton at Commonwealth.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see for that for sure. The other part in terms of the games part, and then we'll get to the heavy part here, is there is an agreement that everybody wants to go, that they are going to the Olympics. There's an agreement but the agreement is not settled that they will go to the Olympics. Part of it is COVID. Part of it is, of course, also they talked about the European Games as well. And everything is right now based on what happens with Tokyo and the Summer Olympics. If that goes through and that goes smoothly, then I think we see everything else fall into place. But if it doesn't, I think this is all up in the air. Going to Europe, going to the Olympics. I don't see games in Europe this year. I think probably that's a next year thing. In my personal opinion, I don't think they should go to the Olympics, but that's my own personal view. I have a hunch they will end up going to the Olympics if everything goes well, because there's money to be made.
Yeah,
but I think but we'll see.
I think that they will. Gary Bettman, he's a hardball player. He'll try and get as much as they can out of whatever negotiation they have within the players and within the Olympic Committee. So knowing him in his past, I think they will. I think it'd be a big miss because they do want to get more viewers within China, right? So it just makes the most amount of sense that they are going.
I don't think they're going. I think there's too much work to do to make it happen in such a short time, because it's supposed to be in February, correct? So we're looking at basically 8 months, and you've got to have it done in basically 2 or 3. And we don't know exactly, like there's still the uncertainty with COVID and everything there. We don't even know what Tokyo is going to look like, let alone all the insurance issues and everything that also has held the NHL back in the past. I just don't think there's enough time to make it work. I want them to go. I think they should go, but I don't think there's enough time to make it work and make teams, make the players feel safe, make the teams feel like it's a good play, and appease the owners and the teams, and let alone trying to build a schedule around, because they are going to go forward with the Vegas, the 2022 All-Star game in Vegas, no matter what. So I just think there's not enough time to make it work.
It is a tough. There's a few other things that I don't think we have time to get into here as well, that maybe we will in future podcasts, but it is a tough line, and I think everything will wait on Tokyo. I suspect though that they'll have 2 schedules in place, or they have 2 schedules kind of ready, one with Olympics, one without Olympics. But they did talk about, Bettman and Daly did talk about yesterday the need to get this straightened out as quickly as possible. So yeah. The other thing that we've talked enough about the officiating, and so I don't really want to spend a heck of a lot of. We've talked enough about it. I don't want to spend more time about it. I mean, Bettman did say they have the best officials in the world. What do you expect him to say? He said exactly what Gary Bettman would say, or any commissioner would say. So I don't really want to spend any time on that, if we're okay with that. But he did address the allegations against the former Blackhawk assistant coach Brad Aldrich. He said he found them concerning. He said that they will wait until an independent review is complete before deciding on potential discipline. I'm reading a quote from Emily Kaplan from her writing on this. Tell me the facts. Once we know what the facts are, we're in a better position to evaluate what may or may not be done. So really at this point, everybody is waiting for everything to be revealed or to have the investigation conclude before the next steps are there. And at this point, I don't think there's anything much more that can be done. I think this is where we're at this particular point in time.
Yeah, I wasn't on, again, unfortunately I wasn't on when you guys originally talked about it. It's unfortunate it took this long for it to come out, but at this point you have to find, as a business, the NHL has to wait to see what comes of this independent investigation that the Blackhawks are going to have happen. I know that's not good English, but there has to be some patience here in terms of waiting to see what happens. But I think no matter what comes out of this, they need to find a way to address what has come out, and there needs to be some sort of, I don't know what it is, but because I don't know what will come out of this or how much or how little, but something, they need to address it at the end after the investigation is done, and they need to find a way to do something that can help move this forwards and make sure that this doesn't ever happen again, or at least try their best to make sure it doesn't ever happen again.
Yeah. In terms of what I know, a lot of people were upset about what 31 Thoughts did in terms of their coverage of it. I think that people need to understand that Elliot Friedman is not Rick Westhead. I think that that's the first thing. Elliot Friedman's role, or Elliot Friedman's job, primary job, is to find out what Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen is going to make in the offseason. He's there for, his primary role is to find out what are the trades, what are the rumors, what are the coaches, and he spends a heck of a lot of time. He spends hours doing that kind of thing. Rick Westhead works for W5. He works in the news department as well as TSN. He's done a lot of coverage on COVID as well. There's two different reporters doing two different roles. And I understand why people are upset about the media coverage of it. I think that that's a bigger conversation, but I don't know what Elliot Friedman really can do at this particular point other than what we're doing. Just state the facts. And at this point, and we offer, again, I offer the condolences to the victim, for the people that have been impacted. We don't know their names. I wish Gary Bettman said that yesterday. I have to be honest. I think I'm a little that disappointed me that didn't happen. But in terms of how Elliot Friedman and 31 Thoughts handled this in comparison to other media outlets, I don't know if that's necessarily, to me, a super fair comparison, because it's two different people doing two different roles.
Yeah, I mean, they can only do so much. Like, other than following the legal process, what more can they say, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. I think that they're redirecting their anger towards towards Friedman, and that's 100% not fair for Friedman. He can only do so much.
And my issue with when a lot of this comes up has always been how people feel like they need to yell and almost vilify people who don't talk about things the way they want it to be done. And these are such tough topics to talk about, and we can only do our best. And sometimes our best isn't good enough. But to basically be yelled at and told and screamed at and insulted and to say and all that, I just don't think that does anything to help. Let's all try and work together to try and get to help make these discussions more willing to talk about them going forward. Because the more willing people are to talk about this, the better, because that means more people are talking about it. It's getting more airtime. It may not be a lot of the time we don't know how to talk about it. So when we don't know how to talk about it, we don't want to talk about it. And especially when you get yelled at and basically be told that you're part of the problem because you didn't talk about it, quote unquote, properly, or give it enough airtime when you don't really know how to, you don't really want to talk about it going the next time. So be open-minded, try and let people process this and talk through it. And the more comfortable people will be about talking about these tough issues going forwards.
Yeah. That's all. We'll leave that topic there at this particular point, because I don't know if we need to go any further. I state the facts. This is what's been happening, and that's all I think.
And you're right, Kev, in terms of our thoughts go out to those affected in negative ways from this. And I really hope that something productive and constructive comes out of this going forwards.
Yeah. There is some news today. We'll get to we'll start with the signings, and we'll start with our friend Graham Boseman, who on a Oilers YYC podcast says he didn't think that they should bring him back, but the Oilers appear to be signing Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who clearly Ken Holland does not listen to our podcast and what Devin said. or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at least doesn't listen to our podcast. And when he suggested he needs to leave Edmonton because he is about to sign an 8-year, $41.5 million contract with a no movement and at 28 years old, the 8 years will get him to 30. What's it? 20? He's 28, right?
He's going to sign through 30. Is it age of 36 with this deal?
Yeah. So the term, the length of this, I'm not a big fan of. The amount, I understand. I think that that's a fair amount. I'm 50-50 on this. I totally understand why the Oilers needed to do it. I do think that if Nugent-Hopkins went to free agency, I think Vegas would have been there. Boston would have been in there. Maybe a couple of other teams. He decided Edmonton. So
he probably would have had more success. That's the reason why I said that if he wanted to go and try his market and see what he could get elsewhere, I think that would have been good for him. But you are right, Kev. Edmonton needed to do this. If they didn't get it done, then there'd be more question marks on, okay, well, who are you bringing in, right? And that is a good cap hit to have him at. He's a formidable player that can play like in your top two lines, and he can play with those top players. It's just I think that overall, for him, he probably could have gone somewhere else, made a bit more money, probably would have had more of a chance to thrive more than he is right now, and maybe have more fun. I don't know. But it does make sense that he is staying in Alberta. He's a Vancouver kid. He's played his junior in Red Deer, so he's been within Western Canada his entire life. So it does make sense.
And it is now official. It is 8 years at $41 million, so the cap hit is 5.125.
There we go.
So, and I believe that there was talk that they were going to have there's going to be a no movement clause included in that. We don't know how many years that no movement clause will be part of, but I think it's likely going to be 4 to 5, at least 4 years of that, if not 5 plus of it. But the last few years, I would be surprised if there's a full no movement clause in the last 2 to 3 years of that deal. Plus, I am expecting it to be as front loaded as possible.
Yeah.
So the buyout option is definitely there. And as far as Holland goes, he probably won't be a part of that team when they have to go through those hard conversations with Nugent-Hopkins. So it makes a lot of sense.
Or at least, I don't actually. Now that I think about it, I think the bulk of that money will be in years 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8 will be lower and buyoutable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Toronto Maple Leafs have signed Wayne. Is there anything else on RNH we need to discuss?
I think it's a good signing. I think I think it's too long, but I think Nugent-Hopkins wanted the term apparently, and we have and then the Oilers wanted to have a lower cap hit because they've got a lot of holes to fill. They've got Nurse to sign next season. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if they can get the structure right.
Yep. The Toronto Maple Leafs have signed Wayne Simmons 2 years, $1.8 million extension. I don't think that's much of a surprise. I think Wayne Simmons wanted to stay in Toronto. Toronto was happy with him. Not a big surprise in my mind.
No, a good cap hit. Maybe ideally you'd probably want to go 1 year with him, but 2 years, I'm okay with it. 900,000, sure. You know, he has a lot of miles on him, but I think he brings a good veteran presence to that lineup. And if he could be, my criticism was that I don't think he was noticed that much in the playoffs, and that was an issue within Toronto not being able to push past Montreal. Obviously, you know, those top end players are part of that too. But overall, I think it's a good signing.
Sean. And then also Don Granato has officially been named the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. Probably not too surprising, although the name Rick Tocchet was out there. I think they just decided to go with Granato, and I don't have a lot to say on that, other than that's news.
Yep, I'm with you.
I think he was the interim coach at the end of this past season, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just they're continuing on with what it is, and I think it's just it's one of those ones. I think Tocchet was supposed to be in on that, but I bet you his asking price was a little bit high for the Pagulas, who aren't willing to spend too much money on the Sabres right now.
Yeah, and that's a person to bring into an organization, and they seem opposed to that kind of thing. So, that was a joke. Montreal is, in terms of just go back to Montreal, is requesting 50% capacity for Bell for the Bell Center. I think Devin predicted that they would try for 50%. I don't think they're going to get it. I think they'll get to 5, but I don't see that they're going to get to 10-5. I'd love to see it. I mean, and I think they're, from the Canadiens' perspective, they have a legitimate argument. I will say that. If you're packing 20,000 people outside, what is the difference of bringing a few of those people inside? And if you're letting them wander around the streets anyway. But I mean, there's, the indoor, outdoor argument with COVID. I think that I don't foresee that they're going to get to 10-5.
I hope they do. I think that they deserve that. I think they do. And let alone trying to get things back to normal. Like it makes zero sense whether you're inside or outside. Like you're shoulder to shoulder, you're yelling, you're drinking. Like it would make zero sense for the government not to do that.
More control too. You've got control of where people sit and everything. I think I think the only argument against it was that I think it's going to be 20,000 outside no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, what Devin you said is correct. Like, yeah, it's outside, but when you're that packed in, is being outside really that much better? So I don't know if they'll get to 50%, but I think they're going to get close.
Yeah, the current 7-day average in Quebec, by the way, is 107 cases a day. So,
let alone there's probably less testing too, right? People are getting vaccinated, and even if they have those, symptoms, they probably aren't going to get tested. So, that being a part of it, neither here nor there, though. Really. Yeah.
But I mean, just in terms of the bigger picture there. And then finally, ESPN has announced their family of analysts. It includes, and I'm just pulling this from my phone, I think it'll be easier, some interesting names. Rick DiPietro, who was recently getting paid to not play goaltender with the New York Islanders, will be joining as an analyst. Barry Melrose will be there. Mark Messier. Ray Ferraro, Leah Hextall, Cassie Campbell Pascal, Hillary Knight, Kevin Weeks, some of the play-by-play Chris Chelios, Steve Levy, who called Monday Night Football, Sean McDonough, who used to call Monday Night Football, as well, just to name a few, and Greg Wyshynski. So
Ryan Callahan as well.
Ryan Callahan, AJ Malesko,
Chris Chelios,
Emily Kaplan.
I think it's a good group. I think I like seeing the amount of play-by-play people they've brought in with Buchagras, Leah Hextall, Kenneth Garay, Steve Levy. And the other two that you mentioned there, Kev, I think it's going to be a good mix, and then they've got a group of analysts, with Brian Boucher being brought over from NBC. We all know he's really good at the color commentary in between the benches. I wonder if they'll continue on with that. Ferraro's fantastic at that. DiPietro's been doing a little bit of that with the Islanders on their broadcast. So it's not like, so he knows what he's doing there. I think it's a great mix of a little bit of everyone. Like, you've got some ex-female or current female players and ex-female players, as well as some good reporters. I like the combination, other than Messier.
Yeah, well, Greg Wyshynski as well. I think he's a good reporter, and yeah, I like it. I'm curious why Cassie Campbell left CBC, or is going to leave CBC. I think that she probably got too much flack from us. He said, not us, but from the listeners, and that she needed to find a new job and find a new avenue, I guess, to still do what she wants to do. And I hope the best for her.
My suspicion, I mean, I don't know. We don't know fully what Cassie's role is, so she could still be working with the Flames and still doing some Hockey Night in Canada stuff. But it's looking to me that, from what I'm seeing, and if you see something differently, feel free to correct me, but I think that they're seeing more, they want to get more Jen Botterill on in terms of the studio part. And I suspect that this year, I would not be surprised this season if we see more Corey Sarich and Christopher Stieg more consistently on the broadcast. I think that I think that that's sort of the leanings that they probably will go there in terms of, and maybe Kelly Rudy, they may be splitting between the three. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like right now there's a lot of room for Cassie in her role in Hockey Night from where I'm sitting, but I could be wrong.
I don't see her leaving. I think this is a split. I think we've seen this in the past with the way Ferraro and Gordon Miller have done it, where they still were on TSN, working for TSN, and we're working for NBC. And I think Ferraro's going to continue to do the same thing with TSN, now ESPN. And I think we're going to see the same thing with Cassie, splitting her time. I think they've got enough people there that she's not going to be there all the time. So I think it's going to be I think she's still going to be on Hockey Night. I think she's still going to be on the Flames broadcasts, just not as often.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be forever, but I do I do wonder if they're going to be using some different analysts on 960. I wouldn't be surprised if I see that either. So, yeah.
Yeah, to your point, Kev, for Stieg, I think he's a good hockey mind. He's well-spoken and well-liked. He comes on hits on 960 all the time. I think you definitely will see more of him on the broadcast, more so, or on TV, more so than you will potentially Cassie Campbell-Pascal.
Adam Schefter tweeted out that ESPN's play-by-play NHL commentary team now will be led by Sean McDonough, and Steve Levy will lead the studio team while also calling several games throughout the year. And Bucci Gross, Bob Wischusen, and Leah Hexon will also add their voices to play-by-play. So, I mean, hey, Leah Hextall, Cassie Campbell-Pascal called a game a couple seasons ago. That was the last game before the last or second last game before the pandemic.
Well, that was the full female broadcast, which was awesome.
Yeah. Anything else we need to talk about today?
I don't think so.
All right. We should be back Thursday.
Yep.
Okay, Thursday. We're planning on the fly. recapping game 2, Tampa Montreal. Is it a split, or is Tampa heading to Montreal up 2-0? We will find out. Should mention again, for those who don't know, these fancy shirts from Van City Sports. So go check them out, vancitysports.com if you don't live in Vancouver. If you are living in Vancouver and you want some Canadiens gear, they're the place to go. They have everything. So check them out. They're on a Seymour, Dunsmuir Seymour there, downtown by the Pacific Center. Anyway, that's the best commercial I have ever done on this podcast. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
Tyler, TNOBLE, Chris is Schneid's, SCHNEIDZ. Podcast_hockey is our Twitter, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Follow me, KEVOLE. And that's where we're at now. Check out our hockey pod clips that we will have out. And we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.